All right, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jimmy Wu at Function Point, and I have my partner in crime, Sophia, with us as well. I see a lot of people are still trickling in right now, so it is 10 a.m., but let's just give it another 1 or 2 more minutes for people to just roll in for the Straddlers, and then we'll get started right away. So hang on tight, grab a cup of water or, chow down, get the refill on your coffee, but we'll get started in a minute or two here. Okay. All right. So I know while there's still some people that are struggling in, but why don't we get started with a few housekeeping stuff? So just wanted to let everyone know, in your GoToWebinar control panel, there is a question section. So if you throughout at any given time during this webinar, you have any questions, feel free to type them in, and Sophia and I will do our best to answer them as we go. Please note that if there are any questions that we are not able to get to at the end, if we run out of time, then we will make sure that our customer success team will reach out to everyone in an email afterwards so that they all get addressed. Secondly, we will be doing a couple polls as work planning view is a new function inside Function Point with quite a few improvements we've made over the past quarter. So we want to get your feedback. So stay tuned for that. As we gather your feedback on how we should further improve our work planning view to manage resources. Um, but otherwise, why don't we get started? Sophia, are you ready as well?
Yeah, as ready as I'll ever be, Jimmy. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you loud and clear. All right, let's get started here then. So just to introduce everyone to myself and Sophia, I know in my GoToWebinar it says success team, but my name is actually Jimmy Wu. I will be your host today. I've been with Function Point for close to 5 years now, 4.5, 5. And I'm the director of sales and marketing here. So hopefully, and my partner in crime here, Sophia Wilson, has been with Function Point for over 7 years now. So she's our manager of customer experience. So she actually knows the system way better than I do. So she'll be really the one that's going to take you through work planning view and how each of the agencies can utilize that better. All right, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so our agenda for today, we're going to go through a number of things. So first off, we're going to talk about what is work planning view, and we put it WPV for short, and why does it matter for you? Okay. The next part is how to make sure your work calendar, so meaning statutory holidays, vacations, and such of your staff, how can we set that up inside Function Point so that it reflects when you plan your resources? The next topic would be how to make changes. So how you can, if someone calls in sick, how can you go into your work planning view and make updates and quickly reallocate workload to others? Next one would be how your resources get updated in real time as people track time and track tasks. So how we can watch for some of that. Lastly, we'll talk about some best practices. So if this is going to be the first time that you're going to be using a resource management tool, we'll share some of the top 3 to 5 best practices that you should consider before implementing a resource planning tool. Last but not least, just a reminder for everyone, there is a poll that we will do throughout to get your feedback so we can continue further improving our system. So stay tuned for that, and please do participate. But before we jump in, I just want to do one last reminder to everyone that in your GoToWebinar control panel, there is a questions tab. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please let us know and just type it in, and we'll try to get through them as possible. All right. So just so everyone know, if you have people or colleagues that want to join, you can share the email reminder that was sent out an hour ago to others. But Sophia, why don't we start and talk about work planning view, and why does resource management matter?
Yeah, for sure. So, Jimmy, as you and I both know, chatting with customers and prospects that work with us, one of the major pain points while looking for a new piece of software is that they don't necessarily know what everyone is doing. They're struggling to know what work is sitting on whose plate, as well as how to plan for future projects coming in. So the biggest question is, or biggest pain point is, I don't know what's going on. And that is why we have worked so hard in building something like our work planning view, which does start to give that sort of insight. And of course, we're going to dive into that as we go through this. And then, of course, the sort of caveat of not knowing what everyone is working on is then you start to burn out your staff. You're giving me too much workload, and Jess over at that other desk is doing nothing. So having views like this really help you in being able to actually see what everyone is working on, as well as, of course, how you can move things around to make sure that your staff stay happy and healthy, especially with what's going on in the world right now. Jimmy, is there anything you would add from your discussions with prospects outside of me chatting with our direct customers?
Yeah, I think those are definitely the top two things. And another one that I commonly hear is, how do I forecast? So, I got this new big client that might be coming in, and I want to see 3 months from now, 6 months in the future, do I have that capacity to
new
work on
visitor
it?
in the queue?
Mm-hmm. Of course, the big question of, do I have that capacity? Do I need to hire, or bring in some freelancers to be able to work on a project of certain sizes? Definitely. So on that note, a few things that we're going to go through today is, of course, task completion and time tracking. Items like this will affect your work planning view. It will, again, as tasks are marked as completed or canceled, or in generally just completed in the office, as long as those are followed correctly within function point, it will remove it from your work planning view, allowing you to see when people are starting to complete things and are maybe opening up for more time for, some reallocation throughout the day. As well as, of course, tracking time. You're going to be able to see the workload on people's plates. It may take them a little bit quicker than expected to finish tasks that you had estimated for. So, of course, the work planning view it does update live as your tasks are managed, so that you have a real life knowledge of what is going on. Then, of course, some best practices with the work planning view. And please don't worry, everyone. We're going to be jumping into the system shortly to make sure that we go through how to do a lot of these things. They're just some things for you to think about as we're going through. So some best practices, and these are around a lot of new features that we've just added to the work planning view. I work with a lot of larger agencies where they maybe have 15 or more staff, and they're split into their different departments. And, the specific managers of those departments want to be able to see just their staff. Those are the only ones they're worried about. They're not worried about Betty in accounting and what is maybe happening on her plate. So we do have the capability of filtering down so that they have those abilities. Also, there are some other fields or pages within Function Point that I know a lot of our teams or customers have used in the past, and we'll just quickly show you how to use them in tandem with the work planning view, just so you can see a bit more of like a day-to-day activity versus more of that forecasting activity. Again, that time tracking daily, so you'll be able to see those resources in real time as everything is being worked on. And then of course, assigning tasks to roles and people. There are different sections so that you can see those. I know there are a lot of agencies I work with, again, with some of those larger teams, and at times they'll assign tasks to the team itself, and then later on they'll actually allocate it out. So it's really handy being able to do that. So as Jimmy had mentioned, there are going to be a couple polls put out through our webinar today. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a sneak peek so you can start to think about it as we are working through the system itself today. And don't worry, again, I will touch on these. I will talk about them more in depth, but we're going to want to know your opinion on allocated hours and how they update today within the work planning view. You know, are we going to want that more set in stone, and we know that there were 8 hours today, and even as we go through the day, shall it remain that way? Or do you want hours to be removed as people track time, or as we know that we're halfway through the day, depending on where your time zone is, of course, it would be able to affect that. So just something, just a little bit of food for thought. Don't worry about it quite yet. We will show you more. And then of course, overdue tasks. That is something that we have recently released as well, so that you can see any tasks that are currently overdue, so that that of course would affect someone's resourcing for you. And what color do we think that should be? Because of course, you know, the red is always a little bit terrifying. I know I get scared when I see it on my dashboard, but I think it also really hits it home. So we'll definitely want your feedback on that too. And then of course, as Jimmy was saying before, just in regards to some housekeeping, any additional questions, you know, we're signed in here for maybe like another 30-ish minutes or so. If there are any questions that come up, you know, late at night, you have an epiphany in the middle of the night in a dream, and you have any questions about Function Point, don't hesitate to reach out to the customer success team. We are all here to be resources for you and ensure your success with the system. And you can reach us at success@functionpoint.com. Also, if, you know, we're unable to tackle all of the questions today as we go through the webinar, you will be receiving some follow-up from them as well. Now, before we dive into the system, Jimmy, is there anything I'm forgetting or any last-minute words of wisdom you'd like to throw in here?
No, I mean, we will have a recording of the webinar at the end, but I think everyone will probably be excited to kind of look at work planning view now and see what it's about. I'm a little excited, I'll be honest.
Oh, great. I can't wait, Jimmy. Jimmy and I have worked together for a long time, everybody, so it's fun when we get on a call together. Okay, I'm just making sure, Jimmy, are you able to see my screen? I just want to make sure I'm showing the right one.
Yes, I am able to see your screen.
Okay. Excellent. All right, so let's just jump right in. You know what, as everyone can see, this is me in my demo system, so it could look a little bit different than everyone else's. I always just like to point out as we're coming in that there is ability to change terminology within Function Point. So you may notice that in your system versus what you're viewing on my screen. Most of those terminologies, you may have jobs would be projects, and projects could be campaigns. Estimates may even be scopes of work. So just something I always like to just give everyone a heads up on, as well as there may be some people that have some different permissions versus what I have in my system as well. My system has full permissions where there is a chance that maybe you know, especially if we're talking about work planning view, you're probably a project manager, so you don't need to see all the financial information down at the end here. So again, don't worry if you don't see those things. It's just your system has been set up to allow for you to concentrate on what is most important for you. So let's dive right into the work planning view. So for those of you that require access to it, you can access it directly here through your dashboard, hover over tasks, and you're gonna see work planning view. Now, if you don't see this, again, this would be a permissions issue. So just reach out to your success manager and they can make sure they point you in the correct direction to make sure that that permission is set up for you. So let's dive right in. My Wi-Fi might be a little bit slow. Oh, working from home.
Sophia, can I ask you a favor to just maybe improve the screen size? Maybe we can zoom in just a little bit more on the screen for the
Zoom
browser.
in.
Yeah, so
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Maybe 125% there. How does that look, Jimmy?
That looks good. Thank you. Perfect.
Okay. Great, awesome. Okay, so let's dive in. So when you enter into the work planning view, this is going to be that initial view that you see. So as I was speaking towards before, you're going to have all of your different individuals within your company over on the left-hand side, and it does also group it by the different roles. So if you don't have roles within your system, you might see this initially as just no roles, or there could be nothing there at all if you don't have roles on in your system. And then you'll have everyone listed underneath. From there, this is where now we dive into those different tasks that are assigned to you. You know, we have that overdue column here that we were talking about before. So these are going to be those colors that we're going to pull you on shortly. And then we go into the different tasks. So within these tasks, you're going to notice there are, again, some different colors happening in here. If you ever get confused, we do have a legend over here on the left-hand side for you to be able to reference. But just for today, we're going to go through it. So anything that's in a blue color, that actually means that it is assigned or in progress with your staff member. Your staff member knows that it is sitting on their plate. They know they need to be working on it. And so therefore they probably are. These would be tasks that have time being tracked to them. And as you see them work through it, you will see the hours be removed. As you can see, we already have this quick little module pop up here where there were 5 hours estimated for this research task. And 1.5 hours have actually already been tracked. And this task is in progress, representing that the staff knows that it's on their plate and they are currently working on it. Something like in purple, however, this represents something in a draft status. Now, this is automatically a little bit of a concern for me right off the bat, because I can see that this draft status, this draft task is here sitting on this individual's plate, but they won't know about it because it's in a draft status. But it looks like it's been needing to be worked on since the 20th of May. So therefore, we know we're already behind on this task because there's a potential that it was missed while being assigned to individuals. So within here, we would actually be able to quickly make that change. And this is the thing I'm most excited about because we just released it today, is this new in-screen edit module that's available for you. So the status here is in here, and we know that we can immediately come in and assign it to this individual, and it will appear on their dashboard for them to be able to get started on working. Do a quick update. And you'll now see that task is in blue. It will be more normal to see those purple tasks starting to form as you go out in time, as you haven't actually assigned these out. And this is a perfect example here too of that task being assigned at the designer level that we know is going to need to be worked on in about 2 weeks' time. And as people's time maybe starts to go down, you'll be able to reassign that as necessary to different individuals. So right now you can see it's assigned to, but we could easily make that change and go ahead and assign it to Jess instead. Perfect. Great. Jimmy, just checking in. Any questions yet so far that you want to make sure we touch on?
You know what? I was just about to interrupt you. So we do have a question. So some of the tasks, if we look at today, have an arrow bar on the left, and while some don't. So if we look at Carmen, the visual FX has that arrow at the left, and then the Facebook post does not. So we're curious, what is the difference there?
Great question. So a couple things that I should actually probably mention regarding the work planning view is there are a few requirements to make sure that the tasks actually appear on this view. First of all, it does have to have a start date, and it does have to have an end date, and it has to have estimated hours against it. So what this arrow here is representing is that the start date for this task was prior to today's date, where the FB post that is underneath, it is flat, which means the start date for it was actually today.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. Ooh, lots of questions are trickling in. So another one was if there's, and this might be more of a workflow question, curious, is there a way to lock down the task assignment by an administrator versus a free-for-all where anyone can make adjustments and move the tasks around?
Yes, we definitely can. So through permissions, we have a few options for you. We could remove the ability to view the work planning view at all, so that only those that need to be working in here have access to it in general, as well as the ability of editing other individuals' tasks. So just depending on what your workflow needs are, we can work with you as on the success team to make sure it's set up properly for you.
All right, awesome. And the next question is from Shannon. Shannon is asking, what does the draft status mean on an active job?
Draft status on an active job. Yeah, good question. So, I work with a lot of agencies where maybe they have a job or a piece of work that will last 6 months or a year even. So what that draft status allows you to do is as you're building out that schedule, you can leave those tasks in what I like to call a limbo. So therefore, your staff member doesn't know that those tasks are assigned to them yet. Just so that, they can concentrate on the workload that is necessary right now and not necessarily stressing about what is going to be coming their way in the future. The draft status also works with our dependencies too, which is always kind of a fun little trick. So if we know, for example, the visual FX task that Carmen here has, and we know that it's going to finish on the 6th, or sorry, the 10th. I'm getting my numbers crossed there. We know that it's going to be finished on the 10th, and she now goes ahead and closes that task. We could have a dependent task in a draft status that once this visual FX task is completed, it will auto assign that new task. So it just helps with the flow and again, just that resource management for you from kind of a tasking perspective and not burning out your team. Would you add anything to that, Jimmy? Any other additional comments?
No, I also find draft tasks are really good for large jobs, or maybe you're planning for jobs that 3 months down the road or 2 months down the road that will start. The draft is great for planning your resources, but without letting your team go, oh, do I work on this now or not?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
All right, I know we still have a lot of questions, but I'll let you keep going for a little bit and we'll circle back to them.
Okay, great, awesome. So what I wanted to dive into next is actually speaking towards this draft status task that I had just assigned to Jess. So something you're going to notice that's a little bit different from Jess's tasks versus other tasks is that she's completely grayed out. And now again, if you look over at the legend over here, you're going to see that that gray represents staff vacations. So for this, it doesn't really seem likely that Jess has unlimited life vacation. Probably a step has been missed in setting up the back end of the system, because right now she's not expected to work at all. However, you probably are noticing again with Carmen that we've got these hours that sit above her task sections. And that 8 hours would represent the number of hours that she is expected to work in a day. And then the second section is the number of hours that have actually been allocated to her. Now, if we actually concentrate on something a little more busy for Carmen, you're going to notice again that VFX task versus the production task. There's one day where she has 0.3 hours we know that have been assigned to her versus the 8 hours she's expected to work in a day. So with this, I should also touch on that the estimated hours, which I had mentioned are required to be able to have your task appear in here, is all of the hours are evenly loaded on this page. So this visual FX task that Carmen had for 10 hours spanning from May 26th to June 10th has evenly spread that amount of time across each day. Again, as time is tracked, that will be removed from there. So if she gets it done a little bit quicker, you will see that probably there are no more hours actually allocated to her on later days. But as I wanted to touch on Jess here, where everything is all grayed out, we can see that she's not expected to work any hours in a day. However, she has 3.3 hours allocated to her, and she even has some on a Sunday. So therefore, we know that this Sunday task this task needs to be adjusted, as well as she herself needs to be updated. So to do this, this actually all lives within the work calendar in the back end of the system. So to be able to update someone like Jess, what we are going to do is we're actually going to come up here, hover over admin. I'm going to go to system setup and the work calendar. In the work calendar here, this is where your entire office, as well as all individual staff, are organized for you. This is also where you can organize any staff holidays, as well as office holidays. I think the next big one coming up for everyone, I know here in Canada, we have Canada Day coming up on July 1st. And then, of course, there is the 4th of July coming up in the States as well. So we're going to also make sure that those dates are set up in here. But we're going to concentrate on Jess first. So the first page we've landed on here is the office hours. We know that within the office, it's expected 8 hours a day. You also have this option of carrying hours to all office staff. The only time you may not want to press this button is if you have any staff that work unique hours. You may have, I know that there are some agencies I work with where some staff only work half days on Fridays, and it's just part of their agreement. But they may make up for those hours on different days. So you can do a little bit of manipulation for the staff themselves underneath the staff hours. I'm going to go directly into Jess here. And you're going to see for her, again, here's that office working hours at 8 hours a day, but the staff working hours are 0. So I'm just going to go in, I'm going to do 8 hours. This page auto saves just for everyone, so don't worry if you're looking around for a save button and you can't find it. It's already been done for you. You're also going to notice the staff holiday hours down here as well. Everything that's in this gray is what has been set by the company as stat holidays. But say if Jess were to take a week off, I would be able to input this in here for her. So maybe we will give her that week off in June to the 5th. Something I also like to note is with the hours, you want to say the number of hours that they are available that day. It's not the number of hours we want to remove from that day. So for Jess, it will be she is available for 0 hours that day. We're going to add that holiday. Perfect. And now we're going to just navigate back to that work planning view. Before I do, Jimmy, I just want to make sure, is there any questions coming in about this page specifically?
I have to admit, there are so many questions right now. I haven't finished reading all of them yet, but I do. So I just want to let everyone know again that if we aren't able to answer some of the questions due to time, we will definitely follow up with you directly afterwards.
Definitely. And also, way to go, everyone. Keep Jimmy working over there. I appreciate it. Again, I'm going to throw in a quick office holiday here as well, just representing, I'm going to do Canada Day because I'm Canadian and that's the next holiday I'm most excited about. Yeah, so let's throw that one in there. I always like to preset these at the beginning of the year. It makes everything a little bit easier. We have in the past, we use function point ourselves for some of these things. Okay, great. So that has now been added in there. And let's go back to that work planning view because there's still lots for us to touch on that page as well. I just wanted to be able to show you as we go through some of these different transitions as we talk about those topics. Now, the system normally shouldn't have this level of delay. I do believe it's my bandwidth today, so I do apologize for that, everyone. Great. So now you're going to see some of those changes that have come in from what I did for Jess here. So we now see that she has 8 hours that she is expected to work in a day. With this production task, she has 5.2 hours that have been assigned to her. So at this point, we know that she has about 4.8 hours a day that we could potentially allocate to her. Now, of course, something that I always like to think about as well when I'm setting these is some offices may want to put in 7.5 hours within their work calendar just to take into account for lunchtime. But that is completely up to everyone's workflow, and we can, again, preset that in the work calendar. But now what I'm also seeing is that, you know, Jess does have this vacation here. So therefore it's a little bit of, oh crap. Okay, so this task where the majority of it is to go through over this time, we probably need to reallocate it. However, you can also see in here that Jess has actually completed 11 3/4 of hours of the 12 hours that were estimated for. So this task may actually already be completed. So you could even have a discussion with Jess and just immediately close it out rather than reassign it for that last 15 minutes or so.
All right, Sophia, I'm going to stop you a little bit and go through some of the questions that have come through, if you don't mind.
I love it. Throw them at me.
Okay, so this one is from Bob. Is there a way to add new tasks in the work planning view, or will you be going through adding of that later on?
Good question. No, we are not able to add tasks directly on this page, but I definitely will show you how to add tasks in the system shortly.
Okay, great, thank you. The next question is from Amy, and Amy is asking, is there a simple or automatic way to close out all the tasks when a project is complete so they do not show up as red or overdue in the work planning view?
Great question, Amy. And it actually was so funny. I was just chatting with Jimmy before we jumped on this webinar where I said I had a dream last night that we needed to make sure we showed that today. And I know that sounds so corny, but it's actually a new feature that was just released within the last couple months or so. And it is our bulk editing of tasks. So all of these red overdue tasks that you're going to see, we're going to clear them out so you'll see how they'll exit stage left.
Okay, that's great to hear because there were a couple other questions. I know Jen and a couple other people were asking about that as well. Cool. So
should we just do that right now, Jimmy? How about I just go through it?
Okay, sure. And then that will give me time to read some more questions.
Perfect. Okay, great. And don't worry, Bob, we will still touch on creating of the tasks themselves. Let's clear out some of these overdue tasks. Actually, Jimmy, before I show that, because then it will clear out these, should we do the poll first and see if anyone has any opinions on the color, and then we'll clear them out so that they can visually see it at the same time?
All right, Sophia, that's why I like working with you. Okay, so on your GoToWebinar, we will be launching a poll. This is in relation to some of the questions that have happened. So the reason there were some feedback in regards to overdue tasks and the color. Currently, it is showing red so that it's really in your eyes in front of you to address, as there should not be technically any tasks that are overdue, ideally. However, and a feedback some agencies have given is that they prefer to have the color still be in purple for draft or blue for assign in progress, so that when they see the overdue task, they can quickly determine, is it overdue because simply I'm still in planning phase, or is it overdue but people are working on it and I don't have to worry about it? Okay. So we'll just give it about 30 seconds here for people to vote. So this is where I could use the Jeopardy music.
I know for myself, I prefer it red because it creates a sense of urgency. But I think I'm biased. I've been used to the red in the system for a long time as for that reason.
Okay, we'll give it 10 more seconds for everyone. Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. I'm going to close the poll now.
Okay, excellent. Well, then let's go ahead and clear out these red tasks. So as I was saying, we did recently release the ability to bulk edit tasks within the system. That again lives up underneath tasks here and find tasks. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a search for all tasks that had a due date that was greater than yesterday. You're going to notice this was a fun shortcut that I just used here. Again, if you ever want some shortcuts, we do have a great legend over here on the side. So I'm wanting all tasks that are greater than or with a due date greater than yesterday. So I was able to do that, just a quick tab out, and then I'm going to just do a find active. So all tasks that are still active that have a due date prior to today, prior to yesterday. And it's pulling up our long list of tasks here. So I have about 93 tasks that have this issue. So I know I just want to close all of them out. So to do that, you're going to notice this button up here. I'm going to highlight all of the tasks. Now, again, if there were a few that you wanted to leave out or only do, say, a handful at a time, you could select each task individually. However, this one will grab all 93 of those tasks for us. You're going to notice that this bulk edit button now has become available up in the top right-hand corner. It was grayed out previously because nothing was highlighted. We want to make sure nothing accidentally ever gets bulk edited, and we're going to pull this up. So within this module, it's going to show you everything that can be edited. Something I always like to point out is probably assigned to or assigned by. You know, I've worked with an agency where a huge reason why we brought in this this feature is for when, say, staff move on from your agency and you need to reassign all of their tasks, say, to either their replacement or who it is that will be just taking over that work in the meantime. Again, you can use all those filters on that first search page that we had used so that you can pull up a proper list for specific individuals, but we could change who everything is assigned to. You can change who everything is assigned by, or in the case of our shared tasks, you can swap maybe from one of those, like whoever's assigned to somebody else. So just something to always think of. Now, for our example today, what we're wanting to change is actually that status from either draft, assigned, or in progress to completed. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to apply those changes to the checked fields. It's going to quickly warn you that 93 of those 93 tasks are going to be edited. Again, I always like to warn everyone, if the system is giving you a notice, you won't be able to change it again later. So you can't go back, you can't revert. Make sure you read these notice fields. I'm just going to click confirm. And it's just going to take a minute to load that for me. The tasks have now cleared out of here. And now I'm going to navigate back to that work planning view. And we're just taking a minute to load here. And some of these overdue tasks are still here because I had done this as of yesterday's date. You know, you probably still want to be careful. Anything that was maybe due yesterday, you still want to leave it at that time. However, it's also important to make sure that anything that was before then is what was removed. So there's still a couple here. Sorry, what's up, Jimmy?
Oh, I was gonna ask a couple questions here. As there was a few people asked about whether they can see which client that task is for on the screen. And
we can see the client that task was for on this screen.
Yeah, so I believe the NAG over there, that's the company code. So you will be able to see it once you hover over the task. But then you can also filter on the left by the company as well. Okay. Cool.
Oh, you know what I just realized? I did greater than today, so it was doing everything past this. I'm so sorry, everyone. I misused that shortcut. So again, really important to make sure that we read exactly what we're doing, or we can accidentally do something like this to our system. So please be careful. Um, okay, but yes, Jimmy, you are correct that this little pop-up, it will show you the company code, and then it will show you the job information, the service, and the little bit of tasking information. Now, of course, if you want to come in, again, this is a completely editable module here where you can make these changes here as well. So we know we want to complete that, and it will then clear out.
Okay. Sophia, there were a few questions on some product improvement suggestions as well. So I was curious if you could also quickly go through the submission of feedback as well.
Yeah, great question. So anytime you guys have any requests or brilliant ideas for the system, or even just to access our support team, you're going to notice this little information icon up here in the top right-hand corner, and it gives you access to everything available. So the Help Center will take you to all of our documentation, and Submit an Idea will take you directly to our AHA portal, where our product team reviews those and prioritizes them based off of what our roadmap currently looks like.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Cool. And we do have a few questions around kind of time tracking and how that calculates into the hours of how the hours are allocated into the work planning view.
Yeah, definitely. So now before we dive into that, there were just a couple of things I wanted to touch on just in regards to some of those best practices that we had talked about earlier. Again, my demo system has quite a few individuals here. You as a specific project manager probably wants to look at only your teams at a time. So in something like this, I would be able to filter by the specific groups. I'm just going to want to maybe look at those account executives as of right now, and it's going to immediately filter by those so that you can have a smaller screen too. So when it comes to the actual tracking of time, we're going to want to make some changes here to track some time against these tasks. So you're going to notice that you can't actually do it directly from this page. What I am going to do is I'm going to reassign this task to myself, and then I'm going to track some time to it so that you can see how it changes. And what we're going to do go.
Oh, Sophia, I just wanted to make sure that that task has estimated hours towards it.
Good question. No, it doesn't. So maybe I'll assign 10 hours to that. We're going to save that. And you're now going to see those hours being spread out over it. So now for myself, who I am, and we're making sure it is in progress. Perfect. I'm going to navigate back to my dashboard where we're going to see that task that is assigned to me. I'm going to track some time to it. So when we train end users on how to use function point for time tracking, I always recommend the classic view of our dashboards. Obviously, everyone is aware that you have the ability of editing these dashboards, but within here, you're going to keep your tasks and to-dos, and you're going to keep your timesheet, your page here. So I can now see that my tasks here, because as an end user, I'm probably going to utilize this page rather than the work planning view. I'm going to see that it's not due till the 31st of May, estimated 10 hours, and I haven't tracked anything against it yet. So I know that I have now worked a good chunk of my day on this. I'm going to highlight, I'm going to click this make a timesheet against task. It has populated that task for me. However, it's not actually attached to a job or a service. So within here, I'm going to be able to go in, find the job that I know that I worked on. We're going to do some time for Branson Airways today. And I know that it was call notes, so it was client management that I worked on. And I worked on it for 6 hours. We're going to submit that. We now see that I've tracked that 6 hours for the day. And while I navigate back to that work planning view as the project manager, I'm going to be able to see in real time exactly what happened. Of course, it removed the filter that I had had previously for myself, but I can just easily scroll down to me. And we're going to see now, as we hover over here, that estimated hours for 10 hours, the actuals for 6, and also previously to me tracking that time, the allocated hours had said 3.3 hours a day, or 3.1 or so, and now it has been evenly spread to 1.3 of those 8 hours. Jimmy, any follow-up questions on that?
I will have to admit, we probably won't be able to get through all the questions in the remaining 15 hours. So yeah, so there are a couple questions here on freelancers. So there is a couple questions on how do you manage freelancers and their workload hours, especially in the scenario if there are variables to that.
So freelancers can always be a little bit tricky, and there's 2 ways of actually managing a freelancer within Function Point. So it could also depend on what your team's workflow is. If you treat them as an external expense where you simply just enter in their invoice weekly or monthly, whatever your flow is, you would not manage them in here. If you are treating them like a staff member and want them appearing on here, then they would need a license, and you would treat them as though they're exactly like any other staff member. Now, if there are some variables in there, just in regards to what days of the week they work for you, or the number of hours they would work, you could change that in the work calendar. But of course, as they would log in and track time in Function Point, you would be able to see their progress within the tasks as that time is tracked. And similar to what I just did here with this task, it would remove those allocated hours from them.
Okay, great. A couple other questions around the task completion. So there was a question from Emily around when a job is now closed, does that automatically complete all the tasks? So they just want to double check that.
So really good question, Emily. Previously, it had not. That's actually a new function that we've just changed within the system. So as long as a job is changed into a status of closed or an alias with the status of closed, it will close any tasks that are still currently open for you.
Okay, I know we got 12 minutes left, so I'll let you keep going and see if I can find a few more questions on here.
Okay, great, awesome. So I know, again, a few key questions that had come through previously was creating of the tasks. Now, of course, that goes into a much bigger conversation around the actual creation of schedules within Function Point. And unfortunately, I can't cover all of that within 15 minutes. If you need any help directly related to that, again, please reach out to your success manager and they can make sure they walk you through it in more detail. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a quick task today, and then you're going to be able to see how it does go ahead and actually, you know what, let's go ahead and we can create a quick, we're going to just look at this, the internal signage program. Now this is already just a pre-built schedule for us. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe do a little bit of just editing to some of these task dates. So in here, this is a really excellent way of being able to just manage schedules themselves. Say if you're using a template or a customer is out tasks 2 weeks, we would actually be able to, and this is where you're going to see those dependencies that I'd spoken about earlier also sitting in here. And I'm just going to grab this entire section and I'm going to move it out 2 weeks, as that is what the customer is behind on giving us back what we need so that we can complete this. I'm also going to just pop into the old edit view here. Now, this isn't necessarily best practice, but it does still have some functionality in here, including bulk editing. So that is something that we will be moving into our grid view, but we'll still continue to leave this old editing view until then. So I'm going to put all of these tasks into an assigned status. I'm going to save and finish this. So just imagine that you have created the schedule from scratch and you just wanted to go and assign all those different tasks to everyone. As we've now done that, you're going to be able to see all the different individuals as they're being assigned. So I'm going to just make sure that we have some from that top section. I'm going to assign some just to the designer here. That should work. I'm going to assign this to Carmen. So we've now just assigned a few of these tasks. We've assigned them, they're in draft, and we've put individuals to them. So this should now start to show up onto that work planning view. Need the Jeopardy music again, Jim. Okay, great. And now you're going to see those different tasks that we had just created on that dealership internal signage program has now appeared. So for Beth here, we had that estimated 4 hours. It's been dropped on starting on June 1st up until June 4th. And then, of course, the much longer one of the image illustration, which will span from June 2nd to June 15th with an estimated of 5 hours there. Now, again, we're going to notice that immediate task that's in a draft status that's been assigned to designer. So this will need to be reassigned, especially since the start date for it was previous to today's date. So we will want to make sure that that gets reallocated appropriately. Jimmy, anything you would add to kind of that quick thing that I did there? I know it was very quick, so I do apologize, everyone. But again, we do have some other previously recorded webinars that go deep into the actual creation and strategy around creating schedules and tasks. And then, of course, your success manager is definitely available to you to discuss it as well.
I think this might be a good time for us to do the second poll we have in this webinar, which is relating to the allocation of the hours for today specifically. So in the today column, currently in this system, it does not update the allocated hours. It updates the allocated hours as people track time towards the tasks that they're working on toward the day. However, it does not update the 8 hours available will remain constant regardless if they track time or not. So we had in the past couple months, there were some mixed feelings about whether, as people track time to their tasks for today, whether that should update both the allocated hours and the available hours or keep it as is. So I just launched the poll, so we'll give it a quick 30 seconds to a minute here to see what people's preferences are. If you want to reduce the allocated hours, but also total hours available, or keep it constant.
And this is definitely one that is a very big debate with the rest of us sort of in the office. So your feedback is really appreciated. It could result in someone owing someone a noogie or something because they win.
Okay, 10 more seconds. Okay, thank you, everyone. Looks like we got about more than 3/4 of the people that voted on it. If you were not able to vote for whatever reason, please, you can always email us at success@functionpoint.com. So thank you all.
Okay. Great. Well, I'll be honest, Jimmy, that was really high level, everything I wanted to make sure I touched on today. Is there anything that I'm missing or any other really good questions that are coming through that you want to make sure that we tackle on screen?
So there
Not
are
to put you on the spot, but
no problem. There are a number of questions that are not more relating to scheduling and tasking
mhm.
instead of the work planning view, but um,
I guess as you read through those, one last thing that I did want to point out for everyone is actually this start and end date up here as well. So again, in those cases where maybe you have projects that last 6 months to a year, or we do recommend that you have the ability of filtering these. So you could look 6 months out to be able to see what your resourcing will look like at that time. So definitely utilize this capability up here. Maybe I'll do a quick stretch. By default, it will be 30 days, but again, you can go out to a full 365 if you need. Now, of course, I always just like to give everyone a heads up that will cause a little bit of lag just with scrolling, but you do have that ability of going out. So maybe we want to see what the end of August is going to look like. And again, my bandwidth is a little bit slow today, but searching that far out may just cause a moment of delay too. And then you have the ability of scrolling through.
awesome. We do have a question around allocating people into teams. So how do you split staff into teams and what is the benefit of that?
Sorry, Jimmy, you just broke up a little bit there. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. So Greg is wondering, how do you split staff into teams and what is the benefit of that?
Yeah, definitely. So splitting staff into teams, in regards to, I'm assuming sort of like the copywriter versus designer, it allows you to, again, organize people by their individual departments who may be working together on things, as well as, of course, having that benefit of, say, for these web developers, knowing that you can assign a specific task to their role, and they can actually filter their tasks directly on their dashboard to allow them to see tasks that are also assigned just to their role, not necessarily just assigned to them, so that they could even pick up that task if they happen to be working ahead of schedule and know that they can grab that. Now, to do that, that is living in the admin areas of the system. So through admin, system setup, and list maintenance, this is where you can edit the majority of the lists within the system. There's a couple that you can't, task statuses being one of them, but you would be able to come in here, find the roles, and actually go ahead and type out all the different roles that you have within your teams, and then assign them directly to those staff members through the rate and staff management, staff rates and permissions. And I only didn't navigate directly to the list maintenance just because of the little bit of a lag, but it's pretty self-explanatory when you get to that page. And then the, say if we went into Bobby Flujay here, you're gonna be able to see this role drop down here and all of the different roles, and then you can assign those to individuals. So that would also be a great way of organizing your freelancers as well. You could create a freelancer role, so then they would all be grouped for you and you'd be able to see what your freelancers are looking for in those cases where you maybe have more than one and want to just look at their resources specifically. Maybe you have freelancers on retainer that you know are going to work a certain number of hours for you. And so it's just something to take into account. Great.
All right, I know we got about 2 minutes left here, so I do want to apologize to people's questions if we weren't able to get to them. Please note that I will share the wealth of these questions to your customer success manager, so that we will follow up with you this week and ensure all your questions are addressed. So I just want to also remind everyone that we do have our product team is looking to gather feedback further on how we can better improve work planning view. I know I saw a few comments that were great, such as things like calendar integration and such. So please, please do go to the submit a feedback. It does get looked at, and we will. So if you see a function that you really like, put a thumbs up, make a comment. It will get more traction if you do so. So yeah.
Excellent.
Sophia, was there anything you wanted to add?
I don't think so. Honestly, it was it's been a while since I hosted a webinar with you, Jimmy, so that was fun. And thanks for including me today, and I hope we can do some more in the future. And again, thank you everyone for joining. It's been really great having you and lots of great questions. Again, the success team, we are here to make sure that you're fully utilizing the system. So don't hesitate to reach out to us at success@functionpoint.com, and a member of our team will be in touch.
Okay, awesome. And just a quick reminder, we will be sharing the recording as well of this webinar. And there is in our support article, there is more details step by step around the work planning view that you guys can view as well. But I want to thank everyone for joining, and it is at 11 a.m. Pacific, but thank you all, and we'll definitely get back to you all on the questions you have.
Okay, great. Thanks,
Thanks,
Jimmy.
everyone. Hey, Sophia, can you still hear me? I'm having trouble ending the GoToWebinar. My computer is frozen. Can you help me close it off?